So getting into the agenda. All right. So the first thing on the agenda that I see for this meeting has the election of the chairman to the planning board. So I skipped over that. I apologize. I got right into things with looking over the meeting minutes. So do we need to have a formal election, Olga? Is that correct?
Yes, we can nominate you since you're already chairman for the Board of Adjustment. If the board does not have any objections, we can go ahead and make a motion to nominate Mr. McGinnis as a chairman to the planning board.
Okay. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Make that motion.
Okay. From
Thank
Ronald
you.
has a motion. Any second?
I second it.
Okay. And so we have a motion and a second. And so voting to approve that I will act as the chairman for this committee as well as the planning board of adjustments, both. And so voting for this committee here, starting with Miss Navy.
I approve.
And so I'm going to go with first names because I can see everyone's first name. I can remember that. So Ronald, and thank you, Diane. Ronald, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
I approve.
Sally.
Approve.
Judy.
Approve.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you all. And I think I have to just say thank you to everyone. I'm looking forward to this. I know that 2022 has already started off a little bit uneasy for many of us. I know it was unexpected. And so I'm looking forward to making this a smooth process for everyone. And I appreciate all that you do to help the community. And I want to support you. And I appreciate your confidence and your time. So we'll get into the rezoning of partial 221097, which you have in your email from the town. Anyone have any opening questions or thoughts for discussion on this before we open the floor for any statements from the applicant?
I would like to hear him speak first and then have questions afterward.
Sounds great. Sound good to everyone else? Any questions before we start? Okay. We will have the applicant go ahead and present. Hi, Chad. If you're ready to get started, we would love to hear more about this application.
Yes, sir. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Chad Abbott. I'm with C3 Design and Engineering. We are on behalf of the property owners submitting a zoning request to rezone a portion of our property from M1 to R20. The current property is just north of town. It has two road frontages on Mariposa and the Charles Raper Jonas Highway. And so it comes out on both roads. The portion that fronts on Highway 27 or North Main Street is currently zoned R20. The portion that fronts on Mariposa Road is zoned M1. So we're really just trying to uniformly zone our property with the R20 so that the property is not split zoned. And in the zoning request, I mean, I haven't seen a staff report. Olga, I don't know if you guys prepare that later on. I haven't seen a staff report, but being that the surrounding properties are also R20, the current property is split zoned with R20 zones and M1 zones. Obviously, they are compatible districts adjacent to each other. And so the completing the zoning of the property as R20 would result in abutting neighboring properties that are also zoned R20 and M1, which is the current condition we have on the property. So from a adjacent property standpoint, there's no adverse impacts to adjacent properties by completing this rezoning and just making our property all one zoning district.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. And Olga, I'm not sure if you needed to respond about the town input that he mentioned.
Yeah, we usually do not prepare a staff report unless it is being requested by the board.
Okay. Thank you. So board members, do you have any questions for the applicant or the town?
A question, he's saying it's just being rezoned for a split zone, but it plainly says on the application is to rezone it for a proposed school.
No, I don't know where that came from. I did not put that on the application. I am asking to rezone our property is currently about 37 acres. The use is not specific to the zoning. We are requesting a rezoning so our property is currently 37 acres. It's somehow when the town zoned the properties, I don't know if it was through a mutual request or property lines have shifted. However, there is a invisible line down through the middle of our property where half of it is in the M1 district and half of the well, not half, maybe 2/3 and 1/3, maybe 1/3 being in the R20 and the other 2/3 being in the M1 district. And so we are then asking to just rezone our entire property, not the portion, or some of it is already R20, just rezone the portion that is currently shown as M1 on the zoning map to R20. And correct me if I'm wrong, Olga, but I mean, that's currently the property, unless, and I'm not sure of the history. I do know the owner that owns the property adjacent to us on the south on Mariposa Road is the current owner of the property. So maybe they bought it all and they reconfigured the property lines. Maybe, I don't know how it got to be split zone, but we're just seeking to make our property uniformly R20.
Well, I'm confused because what came out to us is that it specifically states that it's asking to be rezoned from an M1 to R20 with the purpose to construct a charter school. So I think we need to know the reason why it is being rezoned. I don't think it's just because you want to make it a not split property, because the property across the road is also zoned M1 that
Well,
is owned by Earth Farms.
If I may add to it, I know that the town manager was approached by the charter school. They were looking into that parcel specifically to construct charter school. So, and that's the purpose of rezoning. Mr. Abbott, is that the case?
well, actually, and just, I mean, I do these all across the state in big, small, medium-sized cities. This is a general use rezoning. So when you consider a rezoning application, you are not supposed to talk about or really get into the details of what may be there, because there's I'm not guaranteeing you anything's going to be there no more than you can require something go there. It's a general use rezoning. If you even look under your current code regarding rezonings, the ultimately the board is supposed to find in their either approval or denial how the requested rezoning complies with adopted town or city standards. And must find what, state which they're not, and it specifically says in the ordinance, you're not supposed to talk about specific uses, look at specific site plans, et cetera, when you request a general rezoning. And so that's why I'm trying I've seen cases where they go that direction and it just causes a lot of confusion and a cluster, really. And so we're really requesting, we're not supposed to talk about the uses, and I'm not trying to be, standoffish or defensive in that manner. I'm just talking about the due process, and what our request really is for the rezoning in general, so that any use that's allowed in R20 is allowed to go on the rest of our property, in so much as it's already allowed to go on 1/3 of our property. So that's really what the request is. It's not you approving this rezoning request is not you approving a school.
That goes,
Well, we
and that
understand
goes.
that.
Mhm.
And
Sorry,
that,
I was gonna interject just with a question, Judy. So when this part of the process plays out, and like you said, Chad, I'm not. This is my first time being the chair for this particular committee, and I'm actually involved with the charter school. So I have to probably not even vote on this one. I didn't know that was. I figured that's what this was about. I'm not too closely involved to where I was certain that this could be that kind of discussion. But just to get to that, Judy, I was going to ask if we, I won't vote, but just so I know that in this process, like he's saying, if we look at our role to approve it and it's not related to the charter school, does it go to the town council and they are the ones that have the decision there, so that we wouldn't want to preemptively block anything from it's almost like outside of our role. And I'm asking if it is. And then if it gets to town council as elected politicians, then is it up to them to negotiate those things and worry about the specific uses, just so that we know that we're not, even though it may be an effective way to block something we don't want, whether it's a school or anything else that we may not want there. If it's not the role of this board and it's kind of preemptive, then we would kick that to the town council and let them have a political discussion with the voter feedback and input and in that kind of forum. But I'm not sure. That was my question. Is I think that's what Chad is saying, is that we don't take those on because of the process that we have, and then the town would hear this out. And so if it were, because there may be things we're not looking to see happen in the future, that's another type of use, and I want to know how we handle it so that we go through the process correctly. And so anyway, what do you think, Judy? Is it something we should try and?
The parcels that I see listed on what we were provided from Gaston County GIS shows that it is all zoned M1. It is not showing anything. Well, there is, yes, I'm sorry. It does show on the parcel R20. So what specific area is zoned R20? Is it the area right along Highway 27? Or you have
I can
several different, I mean, there's all different zoning right along 27.
I can screen share if you want. I don't, if that's allowed. I can screen share and show you the parcel that I'm talking about and what portions. I would say, as it relates specifically to any school, a school is not allowed by right in a R20. So even the approval of a zoning here does not allow a school to be built. There is a further requirement that any school be a permit under a special use permit that would then go to the zoning board of adjustments to review the details of the actual design, the site plan, et cetera, of a school prior to it ever being allowed to be constructed or allowed on that property. Like I said, the request before you is simply a general use rezoning, just to make the zoning on the property consistent. So, and really our charge as the applicant is to show the town that this zoning request from M1 to R20 is consistent with any of the town's adopted policies and procedures and would not really be offensive to an adjacent property owner regarding the type of zoning allowed. So for instance, if we were coming in with a commercial zoning request in the middle of a residential district, you would say, even if you knew what it might be for, say I was going to put a Dollar General there, and you say, hey, everybody wants a Dollar General. Well, you shouldn't approve it on the context that I'm going to put a Dollar General there, because my developer may walk down the street and they may put an adult establishment there. And so you want to consider any uses that are allowed in that district and whether it would be compatible to the neighborhood. And that's where I'm trying to make the case that our petition to rezone the rest of the property to R20 does not allow any uses that would be adjacent to our neighbors that aren't already allowed, since some of our property is already located in an R20 district. And I'll pull up this this snip if I can real quick. Let me find this here.
Hey, Chad,
Yes, sir.
while you doing that, Olga, did anybody come in about any surrounding business, say anything about this on the letters that were mailed out?
We did not receive any comments.
Okay.
I have it in an email, so I'm trying to pull this email up.
Sure, and we'll keep discussing while you look for that.
If I may,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Philip, if I may just quick remark that the purpose of the planning board to make a recommendation. So it's up to the council basically to decide to give the final decision. So yours just recommendation, if that maybe answers your question, because you were asking how you should
you.
proceed. Mhm.
And it should be just related to the zoning, not
To
specific
the
uses,
zoning,
not
correctly.
specific uses. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. So maybe while Chad's looking for that, we could all discuss in what cases would we want to not see this happen. So it's currently M1. And so with it going to R20, that could increase traffic in certain ways for all the uses that we're familiar with R20, whether that's housing or anything that it could be. It could conflict with neighboring parcels zoning, which it does not, based on what Chad was saying. It fits into what's nearby. What other reasons would we see to be cautious about not wanting to recommend a rezoning like this? Anybody have any feedback?
Well, I think the reason it's zoned M1 right now is because of the nature of what Earth Farms LLC is. I think that's the reason why it's zoned M1 right now. That is a pretty busy place. You have trucks coming in and out of there all the time. So I think that's the reason why it's zoned M1, because of what the business is that is located on there now. And it's like I said, not only is that parcel on what would be the left side of the road or the north side of the Mariposa Road, but the parcel directly across the street is also zoned M1, which is 55 acres.
Judy, that parcel you're talking about across from M1,
Rezoned.
it was rezoned, yeah,
Okay.
for townhomes.
I was thinking that was related to maybe that one that we had heard that that property backs up to the other side of Harper Park.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So
I
what
have,
was it rezoned to? Do we know what zoning it was? Is it a R8 or R12?
It was R8.
Okay.
okay, I have the screen share I can put up if you want.
Okay.
All right,
And I think as the town, maybe the host, and so if you're see if it's enabled for you as
It
a
is.
participant.
I
Okay.
enabled it, yes.
it is. Okay, so everybody is can see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously the outlined parcel is the parcel we are requesting the rezone. So this area of our parcel is already R20. And as you see, it abuts general business, which typically, high intensity or high density, residential is most times suitably located adjacent to more intensive uses such as M1 districts, such as general business. And so all we're simply doing is infilling the rest of this property as R20, no different than what our current parcel is. So right now, our parcel has R20 abutting M1. The resultant of the rest of this going R20 is R20 abutting R20, R20 abutting R20, and R20 abutting M1, which it already does. And so there's really no inconsistencies or incompatibilities with pushing this zoning line to fulfill the rest of the property. This portion will stay the same color, and this portion would then turn this color blue, but we already have those same property adjacencies from this property to M1 and so pretty much now this property would be abutting other R20 property with uses that are allowed in that district, and would be less of a potential that this property has any issues with the M1 adjacency, because we would be making this entire section here a R20 section.
Thank you very much. If you want to, does anyone want to ask any questions before we take that screen share down? That way we could see each other a little easier. Okay. Thank you, Chad. If you can stop that one, then perfect. Any other discussion from the board?
So I think my question would be is that why did the town zone it M1? And we don't have any, can you answer that question, Olga, or do we need to refer that to Heath? I know he's not here, but.
Your question is, why is it zoned as M1?
Why is it split? Well, my real question is why is it split zone? Why is part of it R20 and part of it M1?
That I cannot answer to that question because it was before my times when I started with the town. That would be a question for Heath, if he knows.
Okay. And then any other questions while we kind of think on those?
I got a question. So Chad, when y'all purchased this property, was it like that already? Split like that?
Well, currently, and I'm sorry, the neighbor, we haven't purchased the property. We're under contract to purchase the property subsequent to a successful rezoning and process with the town. If you look at the, let's see, let me do that. I'm sorry. If you look at the owners of the current property, the earth farms they're adjacent to us, they own the property. So they own the property and are selling the balance of that property. So I don't know if it was split zone when they purchased it. Like I said, it's quite possible that, I don't know the history here, but it's quite possible maybe they purchased 2 or 3 parcels, did some recombinations, and originally that line did fall on a property line. It's hard to say. I don't know, but I'm just, like I said, dealing with the result of the split zone property. That's all I can do.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions. Thanks for your answers too, Chad. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
I would add, if I could, real quick, one last time, that if that, it's not ideal to have a split zone property. You would want to reduce the amount of split zone because it's going to have to be zoned one way or the other to be used as a use. So if we look at the request and the impacts of the request, if we were to take the split zone the other direction and say, what if we rezone the rest of the property M1? Well, we've then subjected 2 more R20 parcels to an M1 adjacent zoning. So where now we're trying to remove any possible adjacencies, but we would actually be increasing the compatibility between adjacencies. Whereas if we were to say, well, let's just make the rest of that parcel M1, well, we've now pushed M1 out to the R20 parcels that are further to our rear and to the north and northwest and northeast. So we would kind of decrease the compatibility between the M1 and R20 adjacencies. Where right now we're fully compatible because it's R20 versus R20 on those borders. I hope I didn't confuse anybody by that.
No, that made sense to me. Anyone have any questions about that explanation or any other questions? So I guess the main thing is that it is working right now, as far as, I think that's as a group, if anyone is hesitant to approve the request, it's because currently there's no activity that causes concern as far as traffic or anything like that. And so I understand that, but it does make a great point that if this is going to be put to use in any way, that it has to be approved to have like a single consistent zoning for the parcel. That makes sense to me. So I think that, as a group, we could decide that, just not recommending to approve it is really just like one technique to keep anything from happening on a property, which I understand that feeling for safety and for traffic and concerns like that. If those exist in the community. I do think another thing to consider is that we didn't hear any feedback from the nearby parcel owners or anyone in the community to the town about this request. So that doesn't indicate that there's a concern necessarily that they voiced. And so that would be something, if we had heard multiple complaints, I would think about that too during the vote. But in general, I think if everyone, one more pass, if you have any more comments or questions, I think we've heard good information. And what do you think? Anyone else have a question or a comment they'd like to get to the town or to one another or to the applicant before we would vote on a motion to approve the request for rezoning to R20?
I would prefer that we receive information from the town as to why it's zoned the way it is now before we take a vote. There's no reason why we can't delay the vote for a week or 2 weeks, whatever. We've done that in the past. But with Heath not here to explain why it's zoned the way that it is, I just don't feel comfortable with making a recommendation either way at this point.
Okay. So Olga, on the speed of that kind of turnaround, what's a normal type request that would fit in with the schedule for town folks and for the board? How far out should we look to try and get an answer back if we vote on that and motion to, I'm not sure how, you'll have to help me with that
We
procedure.
can
Okay.
go into a recess
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then, let's say in a week or two, depending on the board's availability. And we can pick
Okay.
the date right now. This way we can announce
And would
it.
we-
Yeah.
Okay. And would we need to have Heath actually connect with us in a call? Or would he just email us documentation? Probably the easiest way for us
I
to
will
learn.
deliver the message to him and he will prepare the report and we can email it to the board members for you
Okay.
to review, and then at the next meeting, you can vote.
Okay.
We can do that.
And so what we would do since we only have one order or one item on the agenda, we would just go into a recess but not adjourn.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. Do you want to pick the date that will work for the board?
Let's
Usually we
see.
go
Yeah.
like,
Day is 25th.
usually we go 15 days out is what we have done in the past. Usually we don't try a week because people usually can't adjust their
Right.
schedules.
Any input from,
Do 2 weeks.
so does that sound good? 2 weeks?
2 weeks,
From
so
wh-
it will be February 8th, Tuesday, let's say. Will that work?
And I would put in one comment about the speed. If 2 weeks, maybe we don't have to set a precedent, but if you would like to as a group, if we're going to hear a lot of requests, if you think 2 weeks is like a good speed to show the business community that we're aiming to help them, as far as achieve, time is money. And so if you think 2 weeks is a good timeline, then I support that. If the group would like to move faster when possible, I support that. Or if you want to move slower, I support that as well. I just wanted to put that out there that I know with approvals and construction and things like that, if 2 weeks sounds like a good timeline for everyone, we can try and keep that as a standard for reconvening when we want to ask for more information like this. So I was just going to put that out there. So if we vote on 2 weeks now, maybe if you like that speed, we'll try and stick to that as much as we can going forward. How does 2 weeks sound to everyone? Good speed? Okay.
Hey,
Okay.
I do have one other question. Those two properties that's on this sheet, they got WRE again, and they saying it's M1. What, are those gonna stay the same?
That's where the business is located right now. The business that is there, that is what we know is Stanley Septic. It was bought out by Earth Farms, I don't know,
Mhm.
maybe 5 years ago or something. But that is the one that you see there, the small one. That's where the actual office is, where the trucks and stuff come in and out of right now. And the parcel behind it is vacant, correct?
Okay.
Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right. So I believe we're going to reconvene in 2 weeks with information from the town about the history of why M1 zoning was designated for that area. And then we'll get together and vote to make that vote on the approval of the recommendation or to deny that next week, or sorry, in 2 weeks. So pretty simple, I think, as far as wrapping up, since we don't have an official adjournment. I think we just recess and then get back together. So I thank you, Chad, for your time.
Yes, sir.
And I understand that, one of the things I want to provide is to make sure that the citizens feel heard and that everyone on this board feels respected and heard. whether the business community views us as business friendly. So just know that we're trying to do that. And if you want to, you know, send an email to the town or anyone with your feedback about whether 2 weeks and this is working for you, I'm trying to learn. You know, we don't want to move so fast that the town citizens are unhappy, but we don't want to make businesses feel like we're making hurdles or anything like that. So just feel free to send your feedback, and we're happy to have you. We look forward to supporting development in Stanley whenever we can. So I think we're good to adjourn for a recess. And anybody have any comments? I guess outside of the official thing, I think it's good to see everybody. And I guess we are good to wrap up for the night, and stay warm.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. Well, if
Thank
you need
everyone.
anything, feel free to reach out to me. I'm still learning the ropes on how to keep us all on track and organized. So I'll be happy to help any way that I can.
Hey, Olga, real quick. So the delay, I guess, in this decision, just so I can plan and report back to my clients, the delay in this decision, I guess, does it impact the council here, the planning board recommendation at February 21st meeting? Does it push that
No,
out?
we would still, yes, since we're gonna reconvene February 8th.
Okay.
So yes, the recommendation will be presented to the council on 21st.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I keep my.
Still on
Okay.
schedule.
All right.
Love to hear it.
Thank you all. Hope you have a
Thank
good
you.
week.